There's a new man in charge at the Blue Oval. Today, our first conversation with Jim Farley on the challenges of the pandemic, electrification, and the city of Detroit. And as the pandemic continues to wreak its economic havoc, many Americans are hungry. Can food banks and systems keep up? Today is Sunday, November 29th, 2020, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. I hope you've been finding ways to enjoy a very strange Thanksgiving holiday weekend. For many, it has been a difficult time, separated from family and loved ones. For others, it's been a very difficult time because the pandemic has had very real and dramatic consequences. If there's been, say, a positive test for the virus or a quarantine worry, it's meant a loss of a job. Or if not that, perhaps a loss of hours, making it really tough to put food on the table. As we mentioned last week, our food banks are being stretched to the limit right now. A little later on this morning, we're going to talk about what's ahead with COVID showing no signs of letting up as we make the turn toward Christmas. But we're going to start this morning with a conversation I've been wanting to bring you for some time. The Michigan election results are certified now. That happened this past week, so we're going to set politics aside today for our first chat with the new CEO of Ford Motor Company. Jim Farley is a Detroiter through and through. His grandfather worked at Ford way back when, so the company has been in Farley's blood from the get-go. But what a time to take over for Jim Hackett in the middle of a worldwide health crisis and in the middle of a seismic shift in the mobility world, one that has Ford putting a brand new and dramatic footprint in the city of Detroit. Jim Farley will talk about it all, and he's up first today on Flashpoint. A few weeks ago, I had a chance to have a conversation with the new CEO of Ford Motor Company. It just so happened our conversation was on Jim Farley's first day on the job. We recorded our talk for a Focus Hope event, but I found it such a fascinating conversation. We asked Focus Hope and Ford if we could share the conversation today on Flashpoint. I'm happy to say they were both okay with making that happen. We started with the pressures that are unavoidably part of the job. Jim, thank you so much for the time. I can't imagine you don't have much going on today, but tell me a little bit about your reflections of, because I believe I read you're only the 11th CEO of, as I mentioned, one of the most iconic companies in history. Has the weightiness of this moment set in on you yet?
I didn't get much sleep last night. You know, my grandfather started in 1916 at the Highland Park plant as an hourly worker at Ford. So for me to be at this moment at Ford's transformation, or really double transformation, is so humbling. I have to say, I'm so thankful to serve the Ford team. We have a great future. We've gone through so much as a company in 117 years, and we're just about to do it again. The day was great. We started talking to the whole team about our concrete plan to transform Ford. Got a lot of feedback online. We had over 20,000 people who tuned in and thousands of comments from everyone, so great feedback. And the highlight of my day is we had an employee car show, and I got to see a totally original 1970 Pinto, all the way to Lincolns that looked like land yachts. It was really a lot of fun today.
That's really great. Of course, we already have seen a little bit of shakeup at the executive level. Does that tell anybody about sort of the way that you intend to work and the way that you're coming in? Not afraid to change things on your first day?
No, I mean, our plan to transform Ford, to turn around our automotive operations and actually disrupt ourselves is going to require the best talent in the industry. We're bringing in some new team members, and we're also, continue to upgrade our team. And yes, we have to be decisive. We don't have a lot of time. It's time to make the changes we need to make, and it's time to, we kind of know what to do. Now it's time to get on the field. The clock's running down, and we got to go.
You know, you obviously come into this job in pioneer country. None of us really has had much experience with what the nation and the world is going through right now with the pandemic. What do you think that all of this is doing to your job, to the workplace, and to Ford and its place in world business?
Well, the lasting impacts of COVID, I don't think we'll ever go back. We've learned, we now have 100,000 people plus that are working remotely, and we've gotten used to it. And interesting to be in the office today on my first day. We've been together as a team. I mean, we are so thankful to be together when we do get together. I think the office place will be different. Ford is not going to need the number of buildings we have around the globe. The spaces are going to be collaborative. We may not even have a permanent desk at a company like Ford, because people may be coming in just once or twice a week when they need to collaborate with their peers. We have a lot of facility-dependent people at Ford, our manufacturing team, our engineering team that need labs, that need to test vehicles, the clay modelers that shape the vehicles. And for them, COVID's been a very different experience. They're not working remotely. The PPE at 110 degrees in a Kansas City plant is not easy to live with. And, so we've had absenteeism, part supply issues because of it. So I guess Ford is always at its best when there's a crisis. No one asked us to produce PPE, we just did it. And our team is totally stepping up right now. But I do think we're gonna feel the effects of this for many, many, many years to come. And it really is gonna change a company like Ford.
And that is already happening against this backdrop of a workplace, a working world that is changing. I've spent a lot of time thinking about the future of work. When you look out at the future, and obviously this is where Focus Hope has sort of, its foundation is about putting people to work. How do we find enough work for people in the future when we have found so much being turned over to technology now, so much more that we're doing in front of a computer rather than with our hands? What do you think about when you hear somebody talk about the future of work?
It's a complex topic, but I agree with you. We talk about it as a leadership team every day, and a lot will change. Look at electrification is coming to our industry. Electrification, the vehicles are much simpler to produce. We have lots of engine and transmission plants around the world, and I think we're thinking deeply about vertically integrating our business so that our team stops making EcoBoost 4-cylinder engines and starts building electric motors. And so retraining, being flexible, I think is the name of the game. Whether you're a knowledge worker or you're building engines on the line for Ford, we're all going to have to just learn with change and flexible. And I think that's the key. For Ford, this is a really big topic because we are the #1 manufacturing company in our industry in the U.S. We produce more vehicles and have more American jobs building vehicles than any other brand. And so this question is so pertinent for us. And we're also a family company. So we have a different kind of relationship with our team. And I think what we've learned is you got to be flexible.
Yeah. It's also a company that is changing. We no longer really can think of Ford as a car company. I can remember a conversation I had with Bill Ford Jr. This is going to be 12 to 15 years ago up on Mackinac Island. And he told me that at any given time in the world, he had come to learn that about 30 to 35% of the traffic in any city in the world was just people looking for a place to park. I haven't had a great night's sleep since he told me that, and it really frames exactly kind of your marching orders about becoming a mobility company, and that's a transformation that's going to be taking place every single day, every hour for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We have two things to change at Ford. We have to turn around our automotive operations, but secondly, we have to disrupt ourselves, like you said. We can use automated technology, which that has really made a lot of progress even in the last year. If I were to take everyone to Pittsburgh and show them Argo, I think you'd be absolutely blown away at what an autonomous car can now do by itself. And that's just going to get better and better. Not for everyone, but if you're a working mom and dad and your kids need to get to a ball game and you can't be there for them, autonomy is a great solution. For the elderly, for the young, for the disabled, this technology is a game changer for people's mobility. But, it's interesting, Ford is investing heavily in this capability, but at the same time, it challenges private ownership of a vehicle. It's like we have to disrupt ourselves, to be ready for the future, as you say. We own Spin. It's the third largest mobility scooter company in the U.S. Boy, are we learning about, the freedom of movement in these cities. People are using sidewalks now, like they never have before with our scooters. Our scooter rides are now up to 20 minutes on average, something I couldn't even imagine a year ago. There are whole cities now that are closing big parts of the city, like San Francisco now. We're seeing, a lot of new solutions show up. I think, the bottom line is Ford has always been a company that democratizes or brings transportation to the masses. And that means we have the ambition in this new mobility society as being a consumer-facing demand. We don't want to make the scooters. We want to be in the moving people business. We don't want to just have the autonomous technology. We want to actually offer the people, as a customer-facing brand, a ride or move a package in an automated vehicle. We're investing heavily. It's a few years off, but I have to tell you that the technology is evolving so much faster than I imagine as an old school car guy.
Well, and this is really interesting now as to what leads what dog to drink here. I'm very into electrified cars. In fact, I've got my deposit down on the new electric Mustang. We watched California this past week announce that they'll stop letting people sell new gasoline-powered cars 2035, which I think is sooner than a lot of people think is even reasonable. But the question becomes, how do you push this technology in a space where maybe people aren't quite ready for it yet?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think, first of all, we have to be ready with the product. And the product can't be a commodity product. Like your Mach-E Mustang, Ford is choosing to electrify our most iconic vehicles, like F-150 or the Mustang. And we think that the move to electric has to have emotion. And we also think that vehicles that are used for work can be really transformed with electric, because we sell 1 million F-Series a year. Within that 1 million units, there's definitely customers who have a duty cycle that fits the range limitations of electric vehicles, so they can charge every night with no problem. And they have very high costs, and so the electrons are cheaper than gas, and so it works for them. I think, to do this right in America, we're going to have to work together in ways that we never have. The infrastructure has to be built out. And yes, you can charge, your retail Mustang Mach-E, but I'm talking about the commercial customers. The electricians and plumbers and the people that build our homes and the ambulances in our community, for them to go all electric, they need charging in a completely different place, and the charging capacity has to be 2 or 3x what a customer with a Mach-E will use. So that has to be built out. And countries like Norway that leaned into electrification a decade ago has learned how to do this charging, solve this charging problem. Yeah. We also have to, I think, support the customer in different ways. And that means, servicing the vehicles remotely, even presenting the vehicles differently. The biggest challenge for us, and it's a really exciting challenge, is with these new electric vehicles, we can improve them over the air or at night when you're sleeping, and your car will actually physically be different and perform differently in the next day. We may have a weather event and we need everyone to get 50 extra miles to get out of the way of a hurricane. We can program people's, electric motors to perform differently. And so as consumers, we're going to have to get used to our cars improving and changing. That's something we've never, we're used to with our devices getting a new update. We're not used to our cars. So I think there's a lot for the consumers, government, and I think the burden really falls on companies like Ford. And we are forward-leaning on this. We support the Paris Accord. We're going to electrify our iconic vehicles, especially our work vehicles, and we're going to do our 50%.
I love thinking about that future, and I can't let you go, Jim, without a quick comment about where a lot of that thinking is going to be happening, and that's what you're doing at the train station in Corktown, which is going to become yet another iconic piece of the Detroit landscape. Just if you could give me a minute or so on what you expect that to be.
Well, first of all, I live in downtown Detroit, and every day I drive by the train station, and I have to give credit where credit's due, which is the vision of Bill. Bill really saw that Corktown community and the train station as an opportunity to really continue with the revitalization of the city we love, Detroit. And we're looking at it differently than maybe most people think. This is not a building renovation. For us, this is a way for us to really create a new mobility experience for the people who live in that community and the corridor up through Ann Arbor. So we're going to put our latest technology there. We're going to welcome competitors, new companies, technology companies to be on site. And most of all, we're going to work with the community to make sure that this new mobility experiments, pilots, works for them. I don't know how to handicap it right now because it's such an exciting project. One thing I do know is that we've gotten interest from around the country like we never expected. People want to be part of this renovation of Detroit, and they want to be part of this new mobility society, and they see Ford's commitment in Corktown as a way to kind of jump in with both feet. So who knows, we may have autonomous vehicles going between the Dearborn Ford campus and Corktown. We're going to have a large population of people, but it won't only be Ford people there.
And of note, this week the personnel shuffle continued in Ford management, and Farley made further news by publicly praising General Motors for dropping their support of the Trump administration's efforts to keep California from setting its own clean air standards. So things are different already under Jim Farley. Quick break. We'll be right back with Flashpoint on Local 4.
This year, more than any other, are you certain you have the right Medicare plan? HAP is here, helping our neighbors navigate Medicare. Offering Medicare plans with $0 monthly premiums, $0 primary care, and $0 on most preventative vaccines. Collaborating with doctors and hospitals to create plans for today's world, with more bang for your buck. Up to $400 annually for things like over-the-counter medicines or a blood pressure cuff, dental, vision, and hearing coverage. A travel benefit so you can travel the U.S. with in-network coverage and 24/7 telehealth. Looking for more value? HAP is here. Talk to one of our Medicare specialists to set up a no-cost, personalized consultation and request your free HAP Medicare planning guide. Face the future with confidence. See how HAP is here for you.
Michigan, it's time for double the fun because DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino are coming to the Great Lakes State. Sign up early and get $100 towards blackjack and $100 towards any sports bet for free. As the #1 sportsbook and casino apps in the country, we've paid up north of $20 billion in payouts already. Sign up now because this offer won't last. Just download the apps, sign up with the promo code, get your $200 bonus, and make it rain.
Welcome back. The pandemic makes standing in any kind of line a little challenging, and yet we are seeing lines all over America from those needing help getting a meal on the table. Let's talk about that with two people who have a daily view of our food insecurities. Kirk May's with us from Forgotten Harvest and Jerry Brisson from Gleaner's Food Bank. Jerry, let me start with you. Kind of put into context for me how this feels different. I mean, I know you both have seen ebbs and flows before in the demands that are put on what you guys do. How's the pandemic feel different to you right now?
You know, there's three things, and they're all pretty obvious. The first is the huge number of people that have needed help for the first time, trying to figure out how to get that help in a simple and convenient and safe way because, you just can't be near each other. So, changing our whole distribution model to meet the needs of the community is so different now than it was ever before. So that's the first one. But one of the important things is we've seen an outpouring of support in so many ways from food donors and from other donors. And really, in truth, it's the first time and the first crisis that we've never had to turn anyone away. Everyone who has needed food has gotten food, and certainly Forgotten Harvest being so good at what they do helps us a ton. And together we manage to get all the need met when people can get to us. Now, we know there's people who are homebound who we might not be reaching, but fundamentally, that's a new thing, and that's a really important thing as we get through this pandemic. And then the third really big difference is the food supply chain has been so spotty. You know, there's been, like, when you go into the grocery store, you'll see sometimes they're out of something.
Yeah.
Well, for us, we've got to manage 7 million pounds of food a month. So when someone's out of something, that's not a small thing. You're talking about truckloads of food that we got to replace. So those have been some pretty big challenges during the pandemic.
Kirk, same thing. And getting back particularly to that point of people who have never had to ask for help before. You're seeing that as well?
Yeah, there are immense need out there, and a lot of people who are just getting to the end of their savings as we go into the second phase and a new shutdown. Where some folks were just being able to piece things together with part-time work and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of folks that are still afraid, still don't know how to navigate the system, and still have to deal with trying to stay healthy through all of this.
To Jerry's point about being able so far to keep up with that demand, have you seeing the same thing, that so far you're not turning anyone away?
Well, you know, relatively, we still have situations where we run out of time or we run out of food at the sites where we have lines where we're giving food away to people. So, you know, here and there, we do have days when the line was just too much and we don't logistically have the ability to get more food out there in that day. What I can say, which is fortunate, we have not run short on food in our warehouse. We have not run short on the ability to get food out each morning as we deploy to each of our sites. So anytime we may not be able to fill a need on one day, we make sure we can make adjustments the next time around.
Jerry, can I assume that not only you're seeing people who've never had to ask for help before, but in areas and communities that typically you aren't being asked to serve?
Yeah, interestingly enough, the single biggest area where the need has grown is Macomb County, and a lot of growth in North Macomb County. Yeah. So that you know, people wouldn't necessarily expect that, but by the numbers that we run, and we do run numbers daily, weekly, monthly, I mean, we try to look at where the need is showing up. We saw a lot more need there than we expected. We also saw significant increases in people coming for help from Oakland County. So, you know, a lot of people think about the problem as a Detroit problem or a problem of the inner ring suburbs, and there is a lot of poverty in those places, but the truth is we saw need rising faster and more in the northern parts of our counties than we ever imagined.
Yeah, really interesting. Kirk, the challenges too of doing all this in the pandemic, most food banks rely on volunteer help a lot through the year. I imagine fewer people are wanting to show up to volunteer, and your workers have a real challenge ahead of them logistically trying to get food dispersed in a safe manner.
Yeah, you know, it is hard to keep up the same flow of volunteers as we were before the pandemic. I do want to, though, recognize everybody who's come out to volunteer. There's been tireless effort by people who typically don't come out and get a chance to volunteer. You know, it's largely due to the fact that a lot of corporations have had to, you know, suspend their activities internally, as well as their outreach activities that has sustained much of Gleaners and Forgotten Harvest volunteer operations. And, you know, we are looking at like 16,000 volunteers per year. So to be able to do that through a retail kind of way is a different kind of approach to it. So to be able to actually even sustain the volunteerism we have thus far is actually a testament to the dedication of the people of Metro Detroit.
On clickondetroit.com, we will put links for both of your fine organizations for people that want to pitch in, because the need is only going to grow as we make the turn toward Christmas. Gentlemen, thanks so much for the time. Happy holidays and stay safe.
Right back at you.
You bet. We'll wrap things up for Flashpoint right after this.
There are over 500 reasons to shop Black Friday at Gardner White. Reason number 191. Shop and save on any mattress, king, queen, or twin. Serta any size, just $77. Memory foam queen, $195. Going on now at Gardner White.
announcing employee pricing for all during our huge Black Friday sales event. Yep, employee pricing for everyone on most of our lineup, including the Pacifica Hybrid, America's first ever hybrid minivan. And of course, extraordinary deals for employees. 2 great leases for current FCA employee lessees. New Jeep Compass Limited, now just $179 per month. Or lease a Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab V8 4x4 for only $199 per month. Great deals for everyone. See your Metro Detroit Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer. Hurry, offers end November 30th.
There are over 500 reasons to shop Black Friday at Gardner White. Reason number 499. Thousands and thousands of furniture and mattresses in stock and ready for free same-day delivery. Going on now at Gardner White.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for being with us today. Meet the Press coming up next, right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit. Have a great and safe week. We'll see you next time for Flashpoint.